Right now, while you're reading this, there's a squirrel within 100 yards of you who has already made more decisions about your winter than you have. She's chosen which trees will feed her in January. She's picked backup nests in case her main one fails. She's memorized a map of thousands of locations that most humans would need a spreadsheet to track. And she did all of it without you noticing, because it started weeks ago in the middle of what still feels like summer. Welcome to NutriPause. Later in this video, I'm going to show you sign number 5, which is the one behavior almost nobody in your neighborhood is watching for, even though it's happening in broad daylight on your own lawn. And sign number 7 is going to change how you think about that one lazy squirrel who seems to just sit around while the others work. Because she's not lazy, she's doing something far smarter than digging. Let's start with sign number 1, and it's happening right now if you have oak, hickory, walnut, or beech trees nearby. The squirrels aren't just eating nuts anymore. They're testing them. Watch closely next time you see one pick up an acorn. She'll turn it over, sometimes bite into the shell, just slightly, then either eat it on the spot or carry it off. That quick bite isn't random. Dr. Mikel Delgado, who studies animal behavior at UC Davis, has researched how squirrels assess the quality and perishability of different nuts before deciding what to do with them. Acorns from red oak trees contain more tannins and take longer to spoil, so squirrels tend to bury those for later. White oak acorns spoil faster and often get eaten right away. The squirrel in your yard is running a quality control system with her teeth, sorting your entire local nut supply into an eat now and a save for later pile, and she's making that call in about 2 seconds per acorn. Try this tomorrow. Find a spot with acorns underneath an oak tree and just sit 10 feet away for 15 minutes. Count how many nuts get eaten immediately versus carried off. You'll start to see the pattern almost right away. What looks like snacking is actually inventory management, and she's been trained by millions of years of scarcity to never waste a decision. Sign number 2 is about distance, and it's easy to miss because it looks like play. Squirrels in late summer start traveling farther from their nest than they did in spring. If you track one squirrel's movements, and I mean really watch, not just glance, you'll notice she's covering more ground, visiting trees she ignored a few months ago, sometimes crossing into territory that clearly belongs to another squirrel and getting chased off for it. This expanded range isn't wandering. Squirrels are widening their foraging territory because they need to sample more food sources before winter narrows their options down to whatever they've already stored. Researchers who study eastern gray squirrels have found that home range size shifts seasonally, expanding during high-activity caching periods and contracting once winter sets in and energy conservation becomes the priority. Try this yourself. Pick one squirrel you can recognize, maybe by a torn ear or a distinct tail pattern, and track where you see her over the course of a week. You'll likely notice her covering more yards, more trees, more territory than she did back in June. It's a quiet kind of ambition, watching an animal expand her whole world because she knows a version of herself in December is going to need it. Sign number 3 shows up in how squirrels move nuts, not just where. In late summer, you'll start seeing squirrels carrying multiple items in their mouths at once, sometimes making dozens of short trips back and forth from the same tree in under an hour. This isn't inefficiency. It's a strategy called scatter hoarding, and it's one of the most studied squirrel behaviors in animal cognition research. Mikel Steele at Wilkes University has spent decades studying how squirrels handle acorns, including how they sometimes remove the embryo from an acorn before burying it, essentially disabling its ability to sprout, so it stays edible longer instead of turning into a seedling. That's not an accident. That's a squirrel outsmarting a plant's own survival mechanism just to keep her food supply intact through winter. Try this tomorrow. Find a buried acorn cache if you can, carefully without disturbing it much, and look closely at the nut. Sometimes you can actually see the small notch where the embryo was removed. It's a strange thing to realize an animal is performing minor surgery on its food to make it last longer, and once you see it, you can't really unsee how much intention is behind every single burial. Here's where it gets interesting, because sign number 5 is coming up next, and it's the one that most people watch happen for years without ever understanding what they're actually looking at. Sign number 4 is about timing, specifically the time of day squirrels are most active. If you've noticed more squirrel activity in your yard during early morning and late afternoon lately, that's not your imagination. As days shorten heading into fall, squirrels shift their peak activity windows to align with cooler temperatures and to maximize caloric return on their energy spent foraging. This is measurable. Squirrels burn energy fast when they're moving, so timing their busiest hours around the coolest, most efficient parts of the day is a survival calculation as much as a comfort one. Try this yourself. Set an alarm and watch your yard for 20 minutes right at sunrise, then again in the late afternoon. Compare that to what you see at midday. The difference in activity level will be obvious, and once you notice it, you'll start noticing the rhythm of it every single day, like the neighborhood has a schedule you were never told about. Now, sign number 5. This is the one that hides in plain sight because it looks like nothing. You'll see a squirrel dig a hole, drop nothing into it, cover it back up, and walk away. No nut, no food, just digging and covering, over and over, sometimes dozens of times a day. Most people assume the squirrel forgot what it was doing or got interrupted, or is just confused. It's actually one of the most sophisticated pieces of behavior a squirrel performs all year. It's called a deceptive cache, and it exists specifically to fool other squirrels who are watching from nearby. Dr. Mikel Delgado's research on fox squirrels found that squirrels will fake burying food when they sense they're being observed by a potential thief, misleading onlookers about where the real caches are located. Think about what that requires. The squirrel has to recognize that another animal is watching. It has to understand that the watcher will try to steal from a real cache. And it has to choose to perform a false action specifically to manipulate what that other animal believes. That's not instinct running on autopilot. That's a small animal with a brain the size of a walnut engaging in something that looks a lot like theory of mind. The ability to understand that another creature has beliefs that can be different from reality and can be shaped. Try this tomorrow. Find a spot where 2 squirrels are foraging near each other and watch what happens when one notices the other watching. You'll likely see at least one fake dig within a few minutes. It's a strange kind of intimacy, catching an animal in the act of lying to another animal and realizing you just watched something closer to strategy than survival instinct. Sign number 6 is about memory, and it's the piece of squirrel behavior that changed how scientists think about animal cognition altogether. A single squirrel can bury several thousand nuts across a single season, spread out across dozens or even hundreds of locations, and then recover a significant percentage of them months later, under snow, after the landscape has completely changed. Lucia Jacobs at UC Berkeley has done extensive research on spatial memory in squirrels, showing that they don't just wander around randomly hoping to stumble across old caches. They use precise spatial mapping, relying on fixed landmarks like trees, rocks, and fence lines to remember exact locations. This is closer to how humans navigate a familiar city using street corners and buildings than it is to random searching. Try this yourself. Watch a squirrel bury something, then watch what she does immediately afterward. Often she'll pause, sit up, and look around at her surroundings before moving on. That's not random pausing. Research suggests that they're fixing the location into memory using nearby landmarks, essentially taking a mental photograph of the scene so she can find her way back in 4 months when the entire yard looks different. It's humbling to think about. Honestly, an animal we barely register as intelligent is carrying around a mental map more detailed than most people's memory of their own neighborhood. Sign number 7 is the one that gets misread the most because it looks like the opposite of preparation. You'll notice one squirrel who seems to just sit still for long stretches, doing what looks like nothing, while other squirrels around her are frantically digging and carrying. It's tempting to assume she's the lazy one, or sick, or just not as motivated. What she's actually doing is called pilfering, or more specifically, watching for pilfering opportunities. Squirrels lose a significant portion of their caches to theft from other squirrels, birds, and even other animals entirely. So some squirrels adopt a strategy of investing less energy in burying and more energy in watching where other squirrels bury, then raiding those caches later. It's a real strategy documented in caching species, essentially letting someone else do the labor and then capitalizing on it. Try this tomorrow. Pick out the squirrel in your yard who seems least active and just watch her for 10 minutes straight. There's a good chance she's not resting. She's watching, memorizing, waiting for the right moment. It's uncomfortable in a very human way, realizing that even in the animal world, some of the smartest survival strategies look, from the outside, exactly like doing nothing at all. And now, sign number 8, which isn't really about food at all, even though it looks like it is on the surface. By the time you notice sign 8, the squirrel isn't preparing for winter anymore. She's preparing for solitude. Squirrels are largely solitary animals outside of breeding season, which means every single cache, every mental map, every fake dig, every early morning foraging run, all of it is done by one animal, alone, with no help, no partner checking her work, no backup plan except the one she built herself. If you watch a squirrel closely enough in late summer and early fall, you start to notice something almost quiet about the way she works. Not frantic, not panicked, steady, repetitive, present. She's not thinking about next week or next month in the way we think about the future, worrying and spiraling and putting things off. She's just doing the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, because that's what the season asks of her. If you're watching this and you're going through a season of your own that feels solitary, a loss, a move, a quiet stretch of life where it feels like no one's checking in, there's something worth sitting with in this. That squirrel isn't sad about doing it alone. She's not waiting for someone else to help her get ready. She's just getting ready, one nut, one hole, one landmark at a time, trusting that the effort itself is enough, even without an audience. And here's what the research actually confirms, plainly, without any sentimentality attached to it. The squirrels with the most consistent, methodical caching behavior in late summer and fall are the ones with significantly higher survival rates through winter. Not the ones with the most help. Not the ones with the easiest circumstances. The ones who simply kept showing up to do the work, day after day, whether anyone was watching or not. So here's my question for you. And I actually want to know, of these 8 signs, which one has been happening in your yard for weeks without you realizing what you were looking at? Drop it in the comments, because I read every single one and I want to know exactly which behavior clicked for you. If this changed the way you're going to watch your backyard squirrels this fall, send it to the one person you know who feeds them, tags them, names them, talks about them like family. They're going to want to see this too. This is NutriPause, and I'll see you in the next one.